Hello everyone. Let us start our analysis session for the Bull Mock Cat 10. Okay, this is the first question. Okay, do you have any problem in this question? You want me to explain it? Okay. The question says that there is a regular hexagon which is inscribed in a circle of radius 10 centimeter. Again, this circle is inscribed in a regular octagon, which is inscribed in a square. The question is asking about the difference between the sum of areas of the unshaded region and the sum of areas of the shaded region. I think you can clearly see the part which is shaded as well as unshaded. Now here the radius of the circle is given to be equal to 10. Now for our calculations, let us take the radius of the circle equal to say r. This is just for the calculation part. We will substitute the value of r equal to 10 after the calculations are over. Now here you can say that this hexagon is nothing but you can divide it into 6 equilateral triangles, and the side of this triangle is equal to the radius of the circle. So the area of hexagon will be equal to the area of equilateral triangle multiplied by 6, because there are 6 equilateral triangles. So it will be equal to 6 into under root 3 by 4 into side square, which is r square. Now this value will come out to be equal to 2.55 r square. So this is the area of the hexagon. Again, you can say that the area of the circle inscribed inside the octagon can be found out by using the simple formula pi r square, since the radius of the circle is r. Now here this circle minus this hexagon will give you the area of the shaded part inside the circle. So this is equal to 3.14 r square. So from here I can say that area of shaded part inside the circle is equal to 3.14 r square minus 2.55 r square, and this value will be equal to 0.59 r square. So this is the area of the shaded part. Actually this is the area which is I am marking as green here. So this is the shaded part and its area is 0.59 r square. Now come to the outer figure. In the outer figure we are having a square, and the side of the square will be equal to the diameter of the circle. So I can say that the side of this square will be 2r. Now if I look at the outer figure, the shaded part is nothing but these 4 triangles at the corner of the square. Let us take the side of this triangle as x. This side will be x also. So this hypotenuse will be equal to x root 2. Now this hypotenuse is nothing but the side of the octagon. So from here I can say that if this side is x root 2, this side will be x root 2, and this is equal to again x. So from here I can say that the side of the square is equal to x plus x root 2 plus x, and this is equal to 2r. From here I can write it as 2x plus under root 2x is equal to 2r, or from here the value of x will be equal to 2r divided by 2 plus root 2. So this is the side of this corner triangle. So area of this corner triangle will be equal to 1 by 2 into, now this is the base and this is the perpendicular. So this is equal to 1 by 2 into 2r upon 2 plus root 2 into again this value. So this is the area of one such triangle. And since we are having 4 such triangles, so total area will be equal to 4 times this value, and when we solve it, it will come out to be equal to 0.69 r square. So the total area which is shaded is equal to 0.59 r square plus 0.69 r square, which is equal to 1.28 r square. So this is the total shaded area in this figure. Now come to the unshaded part. The total area of the figure will be equal to the area of the square, and the area of unshaded part will be equal to total area of the figure minus the area of the shaded part. So area of unshaded part will be equal to total area of the square, which is 4r square. Why 4r square? Because the side of the square is 2r. So total area of unshaded part is 4r square minus this shaded part 1.28 r square, and this value is equal to 2.72 r square. Now question is asking about the difference between the areas which are unshaded as well as the shaded. So the difference is equal to 2.72 minus 1.28, and I am taking r square common here. So it will be equal to 1.44 r square. Now here the value of r is equal to 10. Value of r is equal to 10 centimeter. So put this value of r, we will get the difference as 1.44 into 10 square, or 144 centimeter square. So this is the answer. So this is the final answer, 144 centimeter square. So you people understood this question or not? Is any problem? No, no Anshul, I think there is no shortcut to solve this question, as we have to find the areas here. Yes, it is time consuming, Hitesh. It is time consuming. Under the time pressure, it is definitely take your time. Okay, so come to the next question. Yes, Hitesh, it is better to left, but there are some other questions which you can solve easily. Now, this is the third question of your paper, and I think if you have the basic understanding of the circles, then this question is doable within the time pressure. So, do you people want this question to solve or not? Okay, Rashmita and Hitesh, you are saying that I should solve this question. C is the circle with center at -1 and 1. C just touches another circle, x square plus 4x plus y square minus 6y minus 3 equal to 0. Now the second circle is x square plus 4x plus y square minus 6y minus 3 equal to 0. We can transform this equation into the standard form, which is x minus a whole square plus y minus b whole square equal to r square, or simply we can also find the center and the radius of the circle by using the coordinate geometry. Now to convert this equation into this standard form, I can write it as x plus, I will complete the square with these terms. So x square plus 4x, I can write it as x plus 2 whole square. Now when I am writing it x plus 2 whole square, it will become x square plus 4x plus 4. So I will subtract from here 4 from here to balance the equation. Similarly from here I will write it as y minus 3 whole square. It will become y square minus 6y, but I am getting additional 9 here, so I will subtract 9 from here, and already I am having 3. So it will become x plus 2 whole square plus y minus 3 whole square minus 16 equal to 0 or equal to 16. So center of this circle is minus 2 and 3, and center of the given circle is minus 1 and 1. Now we will find the distance between the two centers. So distance between the centers will be equal to C1 C2 distance will be equal to, we will use the distance formula, minus 2 minus 1 plus 1 square plus 3 minus 1 whole square. Now it will become under root 5. Whereas the radius of this given circle is equal to 4. Why 4? Because you can write this 16 as 4 square. So there are two cases. Either the two circles will touch externally or they will touch internally. Now if the two circles touch externally, then the distance between their centers should be equal to the sum of their radii. But here the distance is equal to root 5, which is less than 4, which is less than the radius of the given circle. That means these two circles are not touching externally. In fact, they are touching externally. So whenever we have two circles which touch internally, the distance between their centers will be equal to the difference between their radii. And question is asking about the radius of C. So radius of C will be equal to 4 minus root 5. Why? Because this distance is 4 and from here the distance is root 5. So the remaining distance will be equal to 4 minus root 5. Okay, come to next question. Question number 5. Should I solve it? Again an easy one. Okay, good. Anshul says no. Okay, I think you all have done this question and it is a relatively easier one. So I am skipping this question, and the next question is, a train leaves city X for city Y at 5:45 am. It is a question based on the time speed distance. No doubt it requires a lot of equations. Should I solve it? Okay, Amrita says yes. Okay, no doubt this question is a lengthy question if we try to solve it by using the equations. The question says that a train leaves city X for city Y at 5:45 am. So let us say this is city A and this is city B. After traveling 63 kilometers, that means let us say at this point C, it develops an engine trouble and has to reduce the speed to 7/9 of the original speed. It thus arrives at the destination 36 minutes late. Had the engine trouble developed after another 63 kilometers. Now this distance is 63 kilometers. Again this distance is also 63 kilometers. So if the trouble is at point C, the train will reach 36 minutes late, and if it is at some point D, it will reach here 24 minutes late. Since these two distances are same, I can safely say that after 63 kilometer, the time has been reduced by 12 minutes. That means every 63 kilometer interval will reduce the time by 12 minutes. That means if I assume that the distance, the same travel has been started here at some point E, and if the D is also 63, then the time would have been 12 minute late. And if this position, this trouble has been again on let us say some point B, then the train will reach by the actual time. So from here I can say that the total distance will be nothing but 63 plus 63 plus 63 plus 63, which is 63 into 4, 252 kilometers. So from here I can find the distance, total distance which the train has to travel. Okay, Hitesh, you cannot see it. Can you people see this question or not? So the total distance is 252 kilometer. Now we have to find the speed. This is a point A and this is a point B. The trouble has been occurred at point C after 63 kilometer, and the second case says that if it would have happened at some point D, the train would have reached 24 minutes late. That means there is a time difference of 12 minutes. Now this 12-minute gap has been covered in this distance, which is 63 kilometer. So from here, if the speed of the train is, let us say, x kilometer per hour, then from here we can say that 63 distance divided by 7 by 9 of x, the time taken by the train to reach from C to A, minus 63 by x. Now this is a time difference which is equal to 12 minutes. So on solving this, we will get x is equal to 90 km per hour. So to travel 252 km, the train is traveling at 90 km per hour. That means the total time taken will be equal to 252 divided by 90, which is approximately equal to 2.8 hours, or it is equal to 2 hours and 48 minutes. And since the train is starting at 5:40 am, after 2 hours and 48 minutes, the time will be equal to 5 hours, 5 o'clock plus 2 hours, 7 o'clock, and 45 minutes plus 48 minutes. When you will add it up, it will come out to be 8:33 am. Okay, should I move on? Have you understood this question or not? Okay, the next question is, a family of lines is given by 1 plus 2 lambda x plus 1 minus lambda y plus lambda equal to 0, where lambda being the parameter. The line belongs to this family at the maximum distance from point 14 is. So should I explain this question? Okay, Tapan, yes. So we are given a family of lines 1 plus 2 lambda x plus 1 minus lambda y plus lambda equal to 0. Whenever we have two sets of lines, one line is a1x plus b1y plus c1 equal to 0, and second is a2x plus b2y plus C2 equal to 0, then any line which passes through the intersection of these two lines is always given by A1x plus B1y plus C1 plus k times A2x plus B2y plus C2 equal to 0. Now this is already given here, the family of lines. So we will find the two lines which are in this form, A1x plus B1y plus C1 and A2x plus B2y plus C2. So if we rewrite this equation, it will become, I am taking x, y and the lambdas independently. So it becomes x plus y minus, now for lambda it will be equal to 2x plus y plus 1 equal to 0. So now compare this equation with this one, you will get that the two lines which are intersecting, they are nothing but x plus y equal to 0 and 2x plus y plus 1 equal to 0. Now the point of intersection of these two lines will be given by solving these two equations. So from here I can say that x is equal to minus y, put this value of x here, it will be equal to minus 2y plus y plus 1 equal to 0. Okay, sorry, this is equal to minus with minus sign. So it will be equal to minus 2y minus y minus 1 equal to 0, or from here we can say that y is equal to minus 1 by 3. And since x is equal to minus y, value of x will be equal to 1 by 3. X will be equal to 1 by 3. So 1 by 3 and minus 1 by 3 is the point of intersection of these two lines. Yes, it is 2 lambda x. That is why I have taken lambda outside. Okay, Tapan, it is x plus, yes, it is 2 lambda x. I have taken lambda outside. So it becomes 2x. From here I have taken, sorry, I think this should be positive and it should be negative. Sorry. Extremely sorry. I am solving this question once again. Sorry. So it becomes x plus y plus lambda into 2x minus y plus 1 equal to 0. Yes. Thank you. So the lines are x plus y equal to 0 and 2x minus y plus 1 equal to 0. So from here we can say that x is equal to minus y. Now put this value of x is equal to minus y here. You will get minus 2y minus y plus 1 equal to 0, or y equal to 1 by 3. And from here x is equal to minus 1 by 3. So point of intersection is minus 1 by 3 and 1 by 3. So this is a point of intersection. Now, actually these two lines x plus y and 2x minus y plus 1, they are intersecting like this. So this is a point minus 1 by 3 and 1 by 3. Now our line is such that it is passing through this point of intersection, as well as it should be at the maximum distance from point 1, 4. So let us assume that this is the point 1, 4. Now whenever we talk about the distance in coordinate geometry, the distance is always perpendicular distance. Now since the line is at point 1, 4 from the line is at the maximum distance from point 1, 4. So if this is a point of intersection, and let us say this is a point 1, 4. So our line should be at maximum distance from this line. Now join these 2 points and find the slope. This is a point minus 1 by 3 and 1 by 3. this point is 1, 4. So slope of this line will be equal to, slope is y2 minus y1, 4 minus 1 by 3 upon x2 minus x1, 1 plus 1 by 3. So it will become 11 by 3 upon 4 by 3, or it is equal to 11 by 4. So slope of this line is 11 by 4, and since our line is perpendicular to this line, so slope of our line will be equal to minus 4 by 11. Now I am having the slope of this line as well as the point of through which this line is passing. So equation of line will be equal to y minus y1 equal to slope into x minus x1. Now solve this equation, you will get your answer. Okay, shall we move on? Okay, this is again a question from P&C. Okay, Amrita, you did not understand. Because these two lines are perpendicular, and we know that for perpendicular lines, the product of the slopes is equal to minus 1. So if the slope of the first line is 11 by 4, the slope of second line will be equal to minus 4 by 11. Okay, Vishwanath, which part of this question you are not able to understand? Actually, we have a family of lines given by this equation 1 plus 2 lambda x plus 1 minus lambda y plus lambda equal to 0, which I have rewritten as x plus y plus lambda into 2x minus y plus 1 equal to 0, this part. Now, the lines are actually x plus y equal to 0 and 2x plus minus y plus 1 equal to 0. Okay, how it is perpendicular to each other? Because we are, the question is asking about the maximum distance from point 1, 4. So whenever we are talking about the distance in a coordinate geometry, the distance is always the perpendicular distance. Okay. Right. So next question is, P is a set containing n elements, a subset A of P is chosen and then subset B of P is chosen. The number of ways of choosing A and B is such that A and B have no common elements is. Should I explain it or not? Okay, the set P has n elements. So set P has n elements x1, x2, x3, so on up to xn. Now subset A is chosen, and we know that subset A can have any number of elements from 1 to n. So let us take that set A has R elements, whereas R lies in between 0 and n. It is possible that set A is empty or set A is equal to set P. Even then set A will be the subset of set P. That means if A has R elements, the number of ways to form A is NCR, or the number of ways in which A can be selected is Sorry, Amrita, I cannot understand you. Okay, number of ways in which A can be chosen is NCR. We have n elements and we have to select R elements out of these n elements. Now, when A has R elements, the number of elements left for B are n minus R. Now, the set B can has any number of elements. It can have 0 element or 1 element or 2 or 3 or 4 or any number of elements out of these n minus R elements. So we can say that if B has 0 element, then number of ways of selection of B is n minus RC0, since we are left with only n minus R elements. If B has only one element, then the number of ways of selecting B is n minus RC1, similarly n minus RC2, and so on. If set B has all the n minus R elements, the number of ways are n minus R, C, n minus R. Now this is equal to 2 raised to power n minus R, because we know that nc0 plus nc1 plus nc2 up to ncn is equal to 2 raised to power n. So there are ncr ways of selection of A and 2 raised to power n minus R ways of selection of B. So total ways in which we can select these two sets is equal to ncr. Total ways are ncr into 2 raised to power n minus R. But here the value of R is varying value, and it varies from 0 to n. So total ways will be equal to, by summation of R from 0 to n, ncr into 2 raised to power n minus R. Now if we add it up, it will become nc0 2 raised to power n plus nc1 2 raised to power n minus 1 plus nc2 2 raised to power n minus 2 plus so on up to ncn 2 raised to power 0. Now this expression is nothing but this is the expression for 1 plus 2 raised to power n. 1 plus 2 raised to power n is equal to nc0 2 raised to power n plus nc1 2 raised to power n minus 1 plus so on up to ncn 2 raised to power 0. So 1 plus 2 raised to power n is equal to this expression, and from here we can safely say that this value is equal to 3 raised to power n. Okay, any doubt in this question? Okay. Now this is a question from geometry. Avik, you are asking for the question number 14 or the last one? Okay, step 4b. Okay, since we have R elements in set A and total elements were n, so for B we have n minus R elements. So there is no, you can say that there is no compulsion for B to have any elements. So there are certain cases. Number 1, if B has no element, then the number of selections will be equal to n minus R C0. If B has one element, then number of selections will be equal to n minus R C1. If B has two elements, the number of selections will be equal to n minus R C2, and so on. So this will be equal to 2 raised to power n minus R. Okay. So should I explain this question or not? Right. Here we have ABCD, a square. Triangle BFC is an equilateral triangle. The ratio of area of triangle ADE to that of the triangle FEB has been asked. Now to find the ratio, we should have the value, or I must say that the side of square must have been given here. But since the side is not given, I can take any value as a side. Reason, because we have to find the ratio. So for my convenience, I am taking the side as, let us say, 2. The side of the square is equal to 2. Now, to find the ratio of the areas of the given triangles, I have to calculate the areas first. So for triangle ADE and FEB, now for this triangle, I know that this is the perpendicular. One side AD is known, the perpendicular AE is unknown, so I have to find the value of AE here. Again, for EB, F triangle, I have to find this EB length as well as the height of this triangle. So for height part, since this BC is 2, BF is also 2, since BFC is an equilateral triangle. So from here, if I draw a perpendicular on BC, let us say this is equal to ABCD, this is equal to E. Now this perpendicular, since FBC is an equilateral triangle, this FE perpendicular will divide the triangle divide the side BC in two equal parts. That means E is the midpoint of BC. On the same lines, I can say that this BE is also the height of this triangle BFE. So if I find this BE, that will be the height of this triangle BEF, and since I have taken BE equal to 2, the side BE will be equal to 1. Okay, so here in one triangle ADE, I am having the side 2 and the second side is still unknown, and here in triangle FBE, the height is known but the base is still unknown. Now let us extend this FE to FG. Now since E is a midpoint, similarly G will be the midpoint of AD, so AG is also 1. Now since G is the midpoint, this angle is, now take the triangles DGF and triangle AED. In these two triangles, angle D is common. GF is parallel to DC. That means this is 90. This angle is also 90. So this angle and this angle will be equal. So can I say that these two triangles DGF and AED, both of these triangles will be similar? Okay. Also, the height FE of this equilateral triangle will be equal to under root 3 by 2 into side, which is equal to under root 3. So height of this triangle is under root 3. That means from here I can say that FG will be equal to 2 minus under root 3, since total GE is equal to 2. So FG is equal to 2 minus under root 3. Now since these two triangles are similar, that means GF ratio AE will be equal to the ratio of the sides, and since this is 1, this total side is 2, so this will be equal to 1 ratio 2. So from here I can say that AE is equal to twice of FG, or AE is equal to 4 minus 2 root 3. And since AE is 4 minus 2 root 3, from here I can say that EB will be equal to total length. This is 4 minus 2 root 3. So EB will be equal to total length 2 minus 4 minus 2 root 3, which is equal to 2 root 3 minus 2. FE, actually Tapan, FE is nothing but the height of this equilateral triangle FBE, and height is, you can find the height of an equilateral triangle as under 3 by 2 into side. So under 3 by 2 into side is the height, which is root 3. Okay. So EB is equal to 2 root 3 minus 2. Now here in both these triangles ADE and FEB, I am having the bases as well as the sides. So the ratio of the area is, okay, for triangle ADE, the area will be equal to 2 into base into height, 4 minus 2 root 3 divided by, now for triangle FEB, the side EB is 2 root 3 minus 2 and the height is 1. So from here I can take 2 outside and cancel with the 2 in the numerator. The value will come out to be 4 minus 2 root 3 divided by root 3 minus 1. Third option. Okay, Vishnath FG. Actually, GE is nothing but it is equal to the length DC. Now, since DC is 2, so GF will be equal to total GE minus FE. Total GE is equal to 2 and FE is root 3. So that is why GF is equal to root 2 minus root 3. Okay, shall I move on? Okay, this was a block from data, and this was an easier one. Shall I explain or not? Okay, this was an easy block relatively. Okay, Tapan, you have to find the ratios. In the first question, you have to find the probability to select of the selection. You have to find the probability of selection is lowest for which of stream of education. And since this is a comparative data, and this 97, 95 and 120 will be common to all the values, you need not to find the values by taking these two values in consideration. You have to just find the ratio of the values given in terms of percentage here. For example, if I am talking about the science stream, I can simply say that in science there were 13% people who have been qualified, whereas the percentage of persons who have applied is 12%. So actually the question is that 13.4% of 120 divided by 12% of 9795. But actually this 120 by 9795 will be the form of will be the part of every expression. So you can leave it and just find the ratio 13.4 divided by 12. Similarly for the other streams. For commerce, you will write it as 19%. Sorry, I think I have written in the reverse order. This was the composition of the applicants and this was the composition of the finally selected. So it will be equal to 12 by 13.4. Similarly for the commerce, it will be equal to, I think it is 6.8 and 19.3. So roughly you can write it as for commerce 7 upon 19. Similarly, you can find the values for the other streams. So this is the only way to do this question. There is no need to find the actual values. You have to just compare the values. Is it okay? Okay, I think this is very easy question. This is very easy. Okay, come to the next one. There is a set of numbers S which contain all the numbers from 1 to 50. What is the minimum number of numbers you need to choose from S such that there are at least 2 numbers with a common divisor greater than 1? Okay, Vishwanath. Okay, the question says that set S has all the numbers from 1 to 50. 1, 2, 3 up to 50. Now we want that we want to form a subset of S, which is such that whenever you select, sorry Ranjan, HCF should not be 1. Yes, greatest divisor, the common divisor should be greater than 1. The number should not be co-prime. So we want to find the set A in which there are certain numbers such that there is at least 2 numbers whose GCD or HCF is greater than 1. Now for that, first of all, I will pick all the prime numbers from the set S. So the prime numbers in set S are 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 19, 17, 19, so on up to 47. So there are in total 15 primes up to 50. So we should take all these prime numbers from the set S. Now, if all these prime numbers are written over here in the set S, and if I take 1, still there is no such pair where the GCD will be greater than 1. There is no such pair. But I have taken all the primes as well as the number 1. Now, if I write down any other number, let us say 12 or 18 or any other number, then there will be at least one pair. For example, here 2 and 12. The HCF of 2 and 12 will be equal to 2. Let us say HCF of 3 and 12 is equal to 3. HCF of 4 and 12 is equal to 4. That means you can take any other number, then you will be having at least one pair in which the HCF is greater than 1. That means the total numbers will be equal to the 15 primes plus 1 any other number. So there are minimum 17 numbers which you will require. Have you understood or not? Vishnath, Tapan, okay Vishnath, let me explain once again. I have taken all the primes 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17 till 47. So there are total 15 primes, and I have also taken this number 1. So my set contains all the numbers which are prime as well as 1. Now up to here I am having 16 numbers, but these 16 numbers, from these 16 numbers I cannot take any pair of numbers whose HCF is greater than 1. It is not possible because I have taken all the primes as well as the number 1. Now if I take another number which is a composite number, any other composite number, I have taken the example by using 12. Let us say you don't want to take 12, take 16. Now if you are taking 16, then you will get a pair 4 and 16 whose HCF is 4, or 8 and 16 whose HCF is, sorry, not 8 and 16, if you have taken 16, then again the HCF of 2 and 16 will be 2. Sorry, I mistakenly taken 4. Actually 2 was not there. Similarly here 4 will not be here. Sorry. But at least there are some pairs in which the HCF is greater than 1. So it is clear now? Okay, next one is okay. So should I solve this question or not? Actually, again an easier one. This one was easy. Okay, right. Abhijit Singh, no. Shivam Singh, no. Okay, next question is again a question on geometry as well as TSD. But the question is very easy. No doubt the statement is very lengthy, but the question was easy. Should I explain it or not? Okay, Vishnu saying yes. Okay, Tejas and Savtej, I think you all have read the information, so I am not going to explain the question. I am just writing down the solution. So actually there is a circular garden or park like this, and these two people, Tejas and Savtej, let us say they are standing here, and the dog is somewhere here. Now Tejas walked towards dog at 9 km/h, and again it is given that they both are taking the shortest route. So that means Tejas will walk along this line. Then after petting the dog, he started walking back towards Savtej, who at the same time started walking towards Tejas. And also the question says that the distance, which is a aerial distance, that is 120 meter. So this distance is 120 meter. So now Tejas is here and Savtej is still here. After petting the dog, Tejas is again moved backward towards Savtej, and both of them met in the midpoint. And since both have covered the same distance in the same time, I can say that the speed of Savtej and Tejas will be equal. And the speed of Tejas was 9 km/h. The speed of Tejas will be 9 km/h. Now, in the meantime, the dog has taken the radial route and he came to the temple, which is at the mid of the circle. So dog has traveled this much distance. Since both of them have met in the middle, so this distance is 60, and this distance will be equal to the distance which the Savtej is covering. And it is given that Savtej took 18 seconds to cover this distance. Now distance is equal to speed into time, and speed of Savtej is 9 km/h into 5 by 18, which is equal to meter per second into 18. That means this distance is 45 meter. So this is the distance which the Savtej has covered to come to the temple. This is 45 meter, this is 60. So this remaining distance will be equal to 75, as we are having 45, 60 and 75 as a triplet of the Pythagorean theorem. So it is clear or not? Okay. Next, what is the remainder when 7 plus 7 square plus 7 cube up to 7 power 15 is divided by 400? So should I explain it or not? Okay, here you can say that 7 divided by 400 will give you the remainder 7. 7 square divided by 400 will give you remainder 49. 7 cube divided by 400 will give you remainder 343. And 7 power 4 divided by 400 will give you remainder 1. Why? Because 7 power 4 is 2401. So here my cycle has been completed. Why? The remainder, final remainder is already 1. Now, I am writing down the expressions once again. So now from here, if I add up all these numbers, the remainder will be equal to, or I must say that 7 power 1 plus 7 power 2 plus 7 power 3 plus 7 power 4. If I add up these numbers, it will come out to be 343 plus 57, 400. The sum comes out to be 400. That means the sum of remainders of these four numbers is divisible by 4. Similarly, 7 power 5 will give you the remainder 7, 7 power 6 will give you the remainder 49, 7 power 7 will give you the remainder 343, 7 power 8 will give you the remainder 1. So that means these four remainders will add up to 400 again. So these four numbers, sum of these four numbers as well as sum of these four numbers is divisible by 400. That means if we try to make groups of these numbers, so 7 power 9 to 7 power 12, they will also be divisible by 400. So we are left with only 7 power 13 to 7 power 15, and you will get the answer. Okay. So our next question is, in front of a wall 60 meter long, a triangular plot is to be cordoned off using the walls as one of the sides. So should I explain it or not? Should I explain this question? Okay, actually this question is basically from maxima and minima. We are having a wall which is 60 meter long. The plot is triangular. So let us take this value as x, and this is equal to 100 minus x. The reason being the sum of other two sides is 100. Now I have to find the area of this triangle. For that I will find the semi-perimeter, and semi-perimeter is 60 plus 100 by 2 or equal to 80. So the area will be equal to under root s into s minus a into s minus b into s minus c. So it is equal to 80 into 20 into 80 minus x into x minus 20, or it is equal to 40 under root 80 minus x into x minus 20. Now the question is asking about the maximum possible area. So for maximum possible area I have to find the length x. For that I should differentiate area with respect to x, and after differentiation it will become into, I will use the product rule here. So 80 minus x into 1 plus x minus 20 into minus 1. So whenever to find the maximum value to find the critical points, I will equate it to 0. So this expression will become 0, and I will left only with the inner part, which is 80 minus x plus 20 equal to 0. From here I can say that 2x is equal to 100 or x is equal to 50. That means for the maximum area the side x should be equal to 50. So if this is equal to 50, this is also equal to 50. So this triangular plot will be a isosceles triangle. So now to find the area, if I drop a perpendicular, then since these two sides are equal, So this perpendicular will bisect the third side. So this side is equal to 30. This is 30. This is 50. So height of this triangle will come out to be 40. So area will be equal to 1 by 2 into 60 into 40, which is equal to 1200. Okay, Vishal, we cannot generalize it. We have to find the value of x. Abhijit, did you understand or not? Okay, since the question was of maximum minima, we have to find the derivative after finding the area. Okay, now come to the next question. This was a question of Vishal. There is no other logic. Actually, you can solve the question by hit and trial only, but you will not get the proper solution. Okay, next question is, a bag contains 80 envelopes, of which 30 are airmail and the rest are ordinary, not airmail. Out of the 80 envelopes in the bag, 48 are stamped. So you have read the information given in the question. So should I solve this or not? Should I solve this question? Actually, this one is again an easier one. Vishal, you want me to solve it or not? Okay, the bag contains 80 envelopes in total, out of which 30 are airmail and the rest are ordinary. So there are 80 envelopes, out of which 30 are airmail. So I can say that 30 envelopes are airmail, whereas the remaining 50 are ordinary. Now there are 48 which are stamped and rest are unstamped. There are 20 unstamped envelopes which are ordinary. So in the case of ordinary envelopes, we have 20 unstamped. So 20 are unstamped, that means 30 will be stamped. And since there are 48 which are stamped, out of these 48, 30 are ordinary which are stamped. That means the airmail which are stamped will be equal to 48 minus 30 or 18. So this is equal to 18 which are stamped and the remaining 12 which are unstamped. The question is asking about probability that this is an unstamped airmail. So there are 12 unstamped airmails out of 80. So probability will be equal to 12 divided by 80. Okay. Did you understand or not? Got it? Okay, come to next question. Find the sum of this series to infinity. Should I solve this question or not? Okay, here we are given that 1 by 6 plus 5 by 36 plus 19 by 216. The best way to do such questions is always that you break these fractions into two terms. For example, this 1 by 6, I will break it into 1 by 2 minus 1 by 3. Similarly, this 5 by 36, I will find two numbers whose product is 36 and whose difference is 5. I think the number should be 9 and 4. So I can break 5 by 36 as 1 by 4 minus 1 by 9. Similarly, I will break this 19 by 216 into two numbers by selecting two numbers such that their product is 216 and their difference is 19. So the numbers will be 1 by 8 and 8 and 27. So I can break it into 1 by 8 minus 1 by 27 plus so on. It will go on. Now look, there is a case possible that these terms will cancel out. Some terms in this expression will cancel out. But since it is not happening here, we will think otherwise. So this is equal to 1 by 2 minus 1 by 3, and this is equal to 1 by 4 is nothing but 1 by 2 square minus 1 by 3 square, and this is 1 by 2 cube minus 1 by 3 cube, and so on. So from here I am having two infinite GPs. One is 1 by 2 plus 1 by 2 square plus 1 by 2 cube and so on up to infinity, minus 1 by 3 plus 1 by 3 square plus 1 by 3 cube up to infinity. So I am having two infinite series with a common ratio. In the first one is 1 by 2. In the first case, the common ratio is 1 by 2 here, and in the second case the common ratio is 1 by 3. So the result will be equal to A upon 1 minus R 1 minus 2 minus A upon 1 minus R 1 minus 3. So this is equal to 1 by 2 minus, it will be equal to this is equal to 1 minus 1 by 2, 1 over 1 by 2, or this is equal to 2 minus, I have taken the first term as a wrong one, sorry. So the sum of the first infinite GP will be equal to A upon 1 minus R minus A upon 1 minus R. So this is equal to 1 minus 1 by 3 into, it will be equal to 3 by 2, or 1 minus 1 by 2. So answer is 1 by 2. Sorry, previously I have taken the first term as 1. Actually that was 1 by 2. Yes, Rashmita, that was a mistake. Thank you. So, should I move on? Okay, the next question is, difference between a 3-digit even number and the number obtained by reversing the digits is a 2-digit number. So, should I explain this question or not? Okay, difference between a 3-digit number and the number obtained by reversing the digits is a 2-digit number. So let us take the number as XYZ. So we will write the number as 100x plus 10y plus z. Now if we reverse the digits, the number will become z, y and x. That means the number is 100z plus 10y plus x. Now question is saying that their difference is a 2-digit number. So the difference will be equal to 100x plus 10y plus z minus 100z minus 10y minus x, or it is equal to 99 times x minus z. That means the difference is a multiple of 99. Now since it is given that the number obtained, which is the difference, that is the 2-digit number, that means this expression will be equal to our 2-digit number, and it is only possible if x minus z is equal to 1 or minus 1. So I can say that mod of x minus z should be equal to 1. Also z is an even number. So what are the possible values for x and z? Okay, if we take z as 0, the value of x is 1. If it is equal to 2, then x will be equal to 3. If it is equal to 4, x may be equal to 5. It is equal to 6. If z is 6, it may be equal to 7. For 8, it may be equal to 9. Or the second case, if z is 2, x may be equal to 1. Why? Because x minus z may be equal to minus 1. And if z is equal to 4, x will be equal to 3. If z is equal to 6, x will be equal to 5. If z is 8, x will be equal to 7. Yes, Vishal, I think you are asking about the last question. Okay, we will discuss it later on. Okay, Ajit, the mod as x minus z can take the value 1 as well as minus 1. You can write, you don't want to write it as mod x minus z is equal to 1. No problem. You can simply write it here x minus z is equal to 1 as well as minus 1. The question is saying that the difference is equal to a 2-digit number. It is not saying that it is a positive 2-digit number. So the difference may be equal to 99 or it may be equal to minus 99 as well. Is it clear, Ajit? Right. So that is why here the difference is in all these cases the difference is equal to 1, and in all these cases the difference is equal to minus 1. And the next thing, the question is saying that the sum of unit digit which is x and the unit digit which is z and the 100 digit which is x, the sum of these two digits should be equal to should be more than 10 and less than 15. That means x plus z should be in between 10 and 15. Now we have to find the cases from these cases in which x plus z lies in between 10 and 15. I think this is a case where x plus z is lying in between 10 and 15, or this one 5 and 6. So these two values, two sets of values are such that which satisfy this inequality. So from here I can say that value of x and z in first case can be 7 and 6. That means in this case the number will be 7a6, and if the values of x and z are 5 and 6, the number will be of the form 5a6. Now this a, which is the tens place, it can take all the values from 0 to 9. That means there are 10 numbers possible here as well as 10 numbers possible here. So in total there will be 20 numbers. Is it clear? Is it clear or not? Ajit, actually in case of 6a7, you will take z as 7. In that case the number will become an odd number, and question says that number is an even number. That is why I have taken only the even values for z in both of the cases. Although it is possible, but the question says that number is an even number. Okay. So let us move on to next question. This question is of data sufficiency. Should I solve it or not? Actually, this is very easy question. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Again, a question from probability. Should I explain this question? Okay. Question says that there are 52 cards. 2 cards are drawn at random. Okay. Question says that there are 52 cards. 2 cards are drawn at random without replacement. If one card is further drawn from the pack, what is the probability that it will be a queen? Okay, since we have already taken 2 cards, we do not know whether there is a queen in the first 2 cards or not. So we have to take the cases. The first case will be when, now case 1. Since we have already taken 2 cards, we do not know whether these 2 cards has a queen or not. So in the first case, I am taking the case where these 2 cards are already a queen. The 2 cards drawn are queens. In this case, we are left with only 2 queens out of the 50 cards. So the probability will be equal to, now first of all, we'll find the probability that 2 cards are queens. There are 52 cards, so total cases will be 52C2. And since we have drawn 2 queens, the probability is 4C2 because we have only 4 queens in the deck of 52 cards. So this is the probability to find 2 cards drawn are queens. Now we are left with only 2 queens and we are left with 50 remaining cards. So to get the third card as the queen, the probability will be 2C1 or simply 2 out of remaining 50C1 or 50. So this is the first case. Now second case, among the 2 cards drawn, one is queen and the second is not. Okay, Ajit, here I have taken the case when the first 2 cards which are drawn, they are the queens. So if the first 2 cards are queens, then we can say that these 2 queens, the probability to get these 2 queens will be equal to 4C2 upon 52C2. Okay, we have total 52 cards. So in how many ways you can select 2 cards out of these 52 cards? 52C2, and we are having 4 queens, and out of these 4 we have to select 2 which are our favorable cases. So how will you select them? 4C2. Okay, Ajit, you got it. Next case, one card is queen and the other is not. In this case, first of all, we have selected 2 cards out of 52, so that will be equal to 52C2. Okay, Vishwanath, 2 by 50. After we have selected these 2 cards, we are left with 50 cards. And since these 2 cards are queens, we are left with only 2 queens. So we have to select 2 queens out of the remaining 50, right? Now second case, again 52C2 is the total number of cases and 1 card is of queens. So the number of cases or number of ways to select is 4C1. And since the other one is not a queen, that means we are left with only 48 remaining cards, because since the second card is not queen, there are only 4 cards of queens. So you can say that take the remaining 48 cards. So the cases will be 48. Out of these 48 cards, you have to take only 1 card which is of any other value but not of queen. And now we are left with 3 cards which are of queen. Why? Because only there is 1 card which has been selected as queen. So we are left with 3 cards of queens out of the remaining 50 cards. So 3 by 50 is the case here. Next, third part, case number 3. If none of the cards which have been selected is of queen, none of the cards selected is queen. In this case, the total ways will be again 52c2, but since these two cards which have been selected earlier, these two cards, since they are not of queens, so these will be from the remaining 48 cards, so the selection will be 48c2, and we are left with 4 queens out of the remaining 50 cards, so probability will be 4 by 50. Now you have to find the values and just add them up to find the answer, because all these cases are independent of each other. Got it or not? I have left the calculation part. Just solve these 3 expressions. Okay, Vishwanath, second case. In the second case, we are having one card which is of queen and the other one is not queen. Now, out of the 4 queen, you have selected one. So that you can do in 4C1 ways. And the remaining, if I ignore the cards which are of queens, we are left with 48 cards. And out of these 48 cards, one card has to be selected, which you can select by 48C1 ways. So these are our favorable cases, and 52C2 is the total number of cases. Now since we have taken 2 cards, we are left with 50 cards. Okay, Ajit, you got it or not? We are left with 50 cards, and since only one card of queen has been selected, we are left with 3 cards which are of queen, so 3 by 50. Similarly here, if none of the cards selected is a queen, then again the total cases will be 52C2. And since no queen has been selected, that means these 2 cards are among the remaining 48 cards, and you can select these 2 cards in 48C2 ways, right? So the probability of selection of 2 cards such that none of them is a queen is 48C2 divided by 52C2, and we have to select a card which is of queen, and we are left with 50 cards again. Why 50? Because 2 cards have already been selected, so we are left with 50 cards, and out of these 50 we are left with 4 cards of queens, so probability will be 4 over 50. Now solve this expression, these 3 expressions, and add them, you will get the required value. Now you got it or not, Vishwanath? Okay, shall we move on? Okay, there's a parallelogram whose vertices are given. Actually, this is x square. This value is x square. Should I explain it or not? Okay, we have here a parallelogram PQRS whose vertices are given. Question is asking about the longest diagonal. To find the diagonal, we must have these values of x. Now we know that in a parallelogram, the diagonals bisect each other. So if this is a point of intersection, say A, then by using the section formula, since A bisects this QS, so A will be the midpoint of QS. So I can say that if I take QS as the diagonal, the coordinates of A will be x square plus 3 by 2 by using the section formula, since the ratio is 1:1. and 1 plus 4 5 by 2. Also, if I take PR as the diagonal, then again this point of intersection A will bisect PR. So the coordinates in this case will be 5x plus 3 by 2 and 5 by 2. Are you getting or not? I am just using the section formula, 1 into x square plus 1 into 3 by 2. Okay. Now, since these two are the coordinates of the same point A, we can equate the x part. So that means x square plus 3 by 2 equals to 5x plus 3 by 2. From here, we can say that x square minus 5x is equal to 0, or x into x minus 5 is 0, or x is equal to 0 or 5. Now you can solve it. Take x is equal to 0 in the first case. The coordinates of P will become 0, 2, and of Q they will become 0, 1, right? And find the diagonal PR as well as QS by using the distance formula. In the second case, take x is equal to 5 and the coordinates of P will become 25 and 2, and coordinates of Q will become 25 and 1. Again use the distance formula and you will find the length of the diagonals. Got it or not? So shall we move on? Okay. Fx is given, PQR are the roots of the cubic equation x cube minus x square minus 1 equal to 0. Sum of Fp, Fq and Fr has been asked. Should I explain it? Okay. Now, it is given that P is the root of this cubic equation. If P is the root of this cubic equation, that means equation is x cube minus x square minus 1 equal to 0. Since P is its root, so that means P will satisfy it. It means P cube minus P square minus 1 equal to 0 will be true. Now, if this expression is true, similarly I can say that Q cube minus Q square minus 1 equal to 0 and R cube minus R square minus 1 equal to 0 will be true also. Reason being, Q and R are also the roots of the same cubic equation x cube minus x square minus 1 equal to 0. Is it clear? Okay. Now, we are given a polynomial fx equals to x raised to power 5 minus x raised to power 4 minus x square minus x. And we want to find the value of Fp. So, Fp will be equal to p raised to power 5 minus p raised to power 4 minus p square minus p. Now, I want to solve this expression. Since I have the value p cube minus p square minus 1 equal to 0, so I can write this expression as, just take p square common from these three terms. So it will become p cube minus p square minus 1 minus p. Now since this is equal to 0, so it will become 0 minus p equal to minus p. Similarly, f of q is equal to q raised to power 5 minus q raised to power 4 minus q square minus q, and since q cube minus q square minus 1 is equal to 0, we can again write it as f of q is equal to 0 minus q or equal to minus q. On the same lines, similarly f of r will be equal to minus r. Now question is asking about the sum of these three terms. So f of p plus f of q plus f of r. This will be equal to minus p minus q minus r, or take negative sign common, it will be equal to p plus q plus r. Now since p, q, r are the roots of this cubic equation, that means from here the sum of roots will be equal to minus of coefficient of minus 1 upon 1, or 1. So just put this value of p plus q plus r here, you will get minus 1 as your answer. Okay, did you get it or not? Okay, Vishwanath, this was your first class. You can see the other classes on YouTube too. We have a link, just type hitbullseye.com in the YouTube and you can watch the videos there. Okay, so this was our last question for this session. I hope you all have understood the questions which I have explained or not. Okay, Vishwanath, it is YouTube. YouTube, just type hit bullseye. Type hit bullseye. Okay, Amrita, question number 1. This is very basic question actually. That is why I left it. Yes, Ajit, this paper had some questions on coordinate geometry. Question 4. Actually, that was not a question on coordinate geometry. That is a lengthy question. So first of all, let us take the question which Amrita has asked. Sorry, Amrita has asked the question number 1. Amrita, this is a simple question. On HCF, you have to take the choices. Let us take the first choice. The first choice is 673, 916 and 1152. The question is saying that when I have kept some candies for myself, then I can divide the rest equally among the others. That means question says that there is a number which leaves same remainder when divided these three numbers, and that remainder is the number of candies which I have taken for myself. So you have to just find the differences in pairs, just like 673 and 916. The difference will be 243, and if we take the difference of these two numbers, this will be roughly 236. Now if I find the HCF of these two numbers, it will be 1. That means maximum candies that I can take for myself is 1, but the question says that the candies should be more than 20. That means first choice has been rejected. On the same lines, you can find the check the other choices too. Okay, Amrita, you got it or not? Question number 4 is a little bit lengthy. Ajit, actually I did not have a question at my disposal now. If you have the paper with you, then only I can explain it. I cannot show you the question here on slide. Okay, the question is, there is a circle inscribed in the square 140 centimeter. So there is a circle inscribed in the square. So the radius of this circle will be 70. Okay, the radius of this circle will be 70. So its area will be equal to, area of the first circle will be equal to pi into 70 square. Okay. Next, we have drawn the circles here in the four corners of this sphere. This is the center. Okay, since this is 70, this is 70, so this will be 70 root 2. Right, Ji? Right? Next, just take this circle out. The figure will be like, I am taking this circle out. The figure will be like this. Let us say that the radius of this circle is r. Sorry, I will make this diagram once again. This is like this. So this whole value from here to here is OA is this 70 root 2. Now let us say that this circle has radius r, so this value will be r, this is also r, let this point is B, so AB will be equal to r root 2. Now OA is equal to nothing but, it is equal to OC plus BC plus AB. Right? So OA is 70 root 2 is equal to OC. OC is 70, which is the radius of the circle, plus BC, which is the radius of smaller circle, plus AB. AB is again r root 2. So from here we can find the value of the radius r, and it will come out to be 70 into root 2 minus 1 upon root 2 plus 1. Is it clear? So the area of this circle will be, area of first smaller circle will be equal to pi into 70 into root 2 minus 1 upon root 2 plus 1 square. So from here we can say that the areas of the circles are forming a GP, and since this process is going on infinite, so it will form an infinite GP with common ratio. Now divide this area by this area, you will get the common ratio at root 2 minus 1 upon root 2 plus 1 whole square. Just solve it. You will get it as 17 minus 12 root 2. This is a common ratio. So this will go on. And since we are having only one large circle and the remaining circles are 4 in number, so for the calculation purpose we have taken the large circle as the their number as the 4. So for that we have applied the, if you can see the explanation only, then you can see that there will be the sum of infinite GP with 4 circles each, 4 circles from these corners as well as the 4 circles which are the larger ones. And finally we have subtracted the 3 times the large area of the larger circle. But there is a problem in the solution that it is given that 1 minus root 2 minus 1 upon root 2 plus 1. That is wrong. The common ratio should be this. So you can substitute this value in the explanation and solve the question. Okay. So this was the session for today. I hope you all have got the solutions to your problems. Thank you very much.